Every spring you go to that garden center, you pick out beautiful plants in perfect little pots. You bring them home, drop them in your containers, and by July, you are wondering what went wrong. By August, you are blaming yourself. You think you forgot to water, or you overwatered, or you just do not have what it takes to keep things alive. Let me stop you right there. It is not your fault. The plants you have been choosing are the wrong plants. Not because you made a foolish decision, because nobody at that garden center ever sat you down and explained the difference between a plant bred for a nursery display tag and a plant that nature actually engineered to survive in a pot with minimal human involvement. Those are two completely different categories. And the garden industry has no financial incentive to teach you that difference. The moment you stop replacing dead annuals every spring, you stop spending money. Today, I am giving you 9 perennials specifically suited to container life, not plants that can survive in a pot with the right amount of coddling, plants that genuinely perform better in a container than they do in the ground, plants that reward neglect, plants that come back year after year without you lifting a finger. One plant on this list handles deep shade so beautifully it will transform a dark corner of your patio into something that looks like it belongs on the cover of a magazine. Stay with me. Before we begin, drop your U.S. state or your hardiness zone in the comments right now. It helps me understand where this community is gardening, and it helps me build content that is specific to your conditions, not generic advice that applies everywhere and nowhere. Just your state, just your zone. If you are new here, subscribe right now. This channel comes out every single week, and it is built specifically for gardeners who want beautiful results without becoming a full-time laborer in their own backyard. Subscribe, and then let us get into these 9 plants. Number 1, purple coneflower, specifically the variety Magnus. If you have tried Echinacea in a border bed and had mixed results, here is something most people do not realize. Echinacea in a pot behaves like an entirely different plant than Echinacea in the ground. In a garden bed, it is competing with tree roots, clay, compaction, and weed pressure. In a pot, you control every single one of those variables. This plant evolved on the American prairie. Drought, thin rocky soil, intense summer heat, those are not conditions it merely tolerates. Those are the conditions it was shaped by over thousands of years. A container replicates that environment almost perfectly. Magnus is the variety I recommend. The petals are wide and horizontal, which makes the blooms look fuller and bolder than the standard species. Stiff stems that wind does not knock over. 2 to 3 feet tall, ideal for a large container on a deck or front porch, and it blooms from midsummer well into September. Here is the part most people do not know. Do not deadhead it. When the flowers fade, leave those spiky brown seed heads on through winter. They are genuinely beautiful in a frosted pot in January, and American goldfinches and house finches will work them all season long. Hardy in zones 3 through 9. Water well when you first plant it. After that, let the soil dry out thoroughly between waterings. Neglect in this case is the correct technique. Number 2, Agastache hummingbird mint. When I say hummingbird mint, I mean exactly that. This plant draws hummingbirds and bumblebees like nothing else you could put in a container. Long, slender flower spikes in colors from deep cobalt blue to sunset coral, blooming from early summer until hard frost. The fragrance, a combination of mint and anise, fills the air around the pot without being overwhelming. Here is the critical thing the garden center almost never tells you. Agastache does not just tolerate container growing, it actually performs better in a container than in the ground in most American climates? The reason is drainage. This plant originated in dry, rocky soils across the American Southwest. It has a biological resistance to wet winter roots. In a heavy garden bed, the moisture that accumulates in fall and winter is often what kills it. In a pot with good drainage holes and a well-structured mix, you eliminate that problem entirely. You give it the fast, sharp drainage it was designed for, and it comes back reliably. Look for Blue Fortune. Hardy to zone 4, about 3 feet tall, dense blue-purple spikes that are extraordinary planted alongside Echinacea. Full sun, minimal water once established, and go easy on the nitrogen. Feeding it too much pushes leafy growth at the expense of flowers. The flowers are the entire point of this plant. I want to stop here for just a moment. If you have made it this far and you are not subscribed yet, please do that right now. This channel comes out every single week, and every video is built for gardeners who are tired of replacing things that should have lasted for years. Hit subscribe and let us keep going. 7 more plants, and the one I promised you is still ahead. Number 3, Lavender Munstead. I know what some of you are thinking. You tried lavender, it got leggy, the center died out. It looked ragged by year 2, and you pulled it. Every time I hear that story, I ask the same question. Was it in the ground or in a pot? Lavender in a heavy garden bed, especially in humid climates, develops exactly that problem. Moisture builds up around the crown, airflow is restricted, and the plant slowly falls apart from the center out. But Munstead lavender in a terracotta or ceramic pot with sharp drainage is a completely different plant. It stays compact. It does not develop that bare dead center. It blooms longer because the container warms up faster in spring. Munstead is the variety I recommend for containers because it stays at 12 to 18 inches and has better cold hardiness than most other lavender varieties. That matters in zones 5 and 6. The single most important care instruction I can give you: do not water on a schedule. Let the soil go completely dry. Water deeply, then let it go completely dry again. That cycle is exactly what this plant evolved for. And here is the additional benefit almost nobody mentions. The volatile oils in the foliage are deeply repellent to mosquitoes, aphids, and whiteflies. You are not just growing a beautiful, fragrant plant. You are growing a living pest management system that costs nothing to run once it is established. Number 4, Hosta Patriot. This is the one I promised you. If you have a dark shaded corner of your patio that has never looked right, this is your answer. But before I tell you about the plant, I want to explain something important. When you grow hosta in the ground, slugs find it. They will reduce those beautiful broad leaves to Swiss cheese before July. Most people respond by reaching for slug bait, which can harm birds, dogs, and beneficial ground beetles. The problem is not the plant, the problem is the accessibility. Put a hosta in a container, elevate it even slightly, and slugs cannot reach it nearly as easily. You have removed the primary pest problem without a single chemical input. Patriot is specifically ideal for containers because of its size. It stays around 18 to 22 inches wide, filling a 12 to 14 inch pot beautifully without outgrowing it too quickly. The leaves are a deep, rich green with stark, clean white margins. And what that white edge does in a dark or shaded corner is remarkable. It acts like a natural light reflector, brightening the space visually even without direct sun. Hardy, in zones 3 through 8. One pot of Patriot left in a shaded corner will come back for 20 or 30 years with almost no intervention from you. Divide it every 3 or 4 years, and you have free plants for yourself and every neighbor on your street. Number 5, Sedum, Autumn, Joy. This is a succulent perennial. It stores water in its thick, fleshy leaves and stems. That alone tells you everything about its relationship to drought and container growing. It does not need frequent watering. It does not need rich soil. It does not need fertilizer. What it needs is sun, decent drainage, and to be left alone. What makes Autumn Joy genuinely remarkable is four-season performance from a single container planting. In spring, tight blue-green buds emerge, and the architectural structure is already interesting. Through summer, the plant mounds up cleanly and stays upright. It does not flop under its own weight the way many perennials do in a pot that gets afternoon wind. In late summer, flat flower heads open to a warm, dusty pink. By mid-autumn, they deepen to a rich brick red, and when winter comes, those dried heads turn a coppery bronze and hold their structure through ice and snow. 4 distinct seasons of visual interest from a plant you basically never touch. Hardy in zones 3 through 9. Water it when you plant it, establish it for the first season, and after that you will be surprised how rarely you need to pay attention to it at all. Number 6. Heuchera, coral bells. Let me be very clear up front. This is not primarily a flowering plant. Yes, it produces delicate, airy flower spikes in early summer, but if you are growing Heuchera for the flowers, you are growing it for the wrong reason. You grow Heuchera for the foliage. Palace purple has leaves the color of deep burgundy wine, almost black in certain light. Caramel produces warm amber and peach tones. Lime Ricky gives you chartreuse that practically glows in a shaded corner. And unlike a flower that lasts a few weeks, that color is present from the moment the plant breaks dormancy in spring until it goes dormant in late autumn. In a mixed container, Heuchera functions as the anchor. You build the rest of the planting around it. Pair a dark burgundy variety with a bright chartreuse grass, and you have a combination that looks expensive and intentional without any effort on your part. And here is the practical bonus most people overlook. That dense, low mound of foliage covers the soil surface completely, which means light cannot reach it to germinate weed seeds. You are getting natural weed suppression built directly into the plant's growth habit. No mulch purchase required. The plant does the work. Hardy in zones 4 through 9. Handles full shade to partial sun. Number 7. Salvia Caradonna. This is a true perennial salvia, not the annual bedding salvia you see in 6-packs every May. Hardy to zone 5, it comes back reliably year after year with an upright presence that sets it apart from almost everything else you could put in a container. The stems are stiff and dark, nearly black-purple, and the vivid violet-blue flower spikes simply do not move in wind. On a deck that gets afternoon gusts, that is not a minor feature. That is the difference between a planting that looks great all season and one that looks battered and defeated by August. It blooms first in late spring for 4 to 6 weeks. Then give the old flower spikes a simple cut down to where you can see new basal growth emerging, and it will rebloom. A full, legitimate second bloom in late summer that extends the show well into September. That one haircut, taking maybe 10 minutes, is the only active maintenance this plant requires all season. Full sun, zones 5 through 8. Do not fertilize heavily or it pushes leggy growth and reduces the density and stiffness of those remarkable stems. Number 8, Daylily Stelladoro. If you want the single most bulletproof container perennial on this entire list, this is it. Stelladoro was bred specifically as a compact reblooming daylily, and those two qualities, compact size and continuous rebloom, make it ideal for container life in a way that larger standard daylilies simply are not. The foliage stays at about 12 inches. The golden yellow blooms come in waves throughout the entire growing season, rather than one flush that lasts a few weeks and disappears. One wave blooms and fades. You remove the spent scapes by cutting them at the base, and within a few weeks another wave of buds is opening. It will handle poor soil, drought, and outright neglect in a way that would destroy most perennials. Zones 3 through 9. Full sun. Water consistently the first season while it establishes. After that, treat it the same way you treat Echinacea. Let the soil dry between waterings, do not over-fertilize, and leave it alone to do what it does. Number 9. Geranium Rozanne. This plant solves a problem that frustrates almost every container gardener who has tried to create a combination planting. The edge, that cascading element that softens the rim of the pot and spills over the sides. Most trailing plants used for this purpose are annuals, gone at the end of the season, replaced every spring. Rozanne is a perennial that gives you that same trailing quality and comes back every year. Hardy in zones 5 through 8. The flowers are violet blue with a white center, luminous, and they appear from late spring continuously, without pause, without a midsummer rest period, without any deadheading required, all the way until the first hard frost of autumn. The reason Rozanne never stops blooming is that it is a sterile hybrid. It cannot produce viable seed. Every time a flower fades, the plant cannot redirect energy into seed production, so that energy goes directly back into producing more flowers, an unbroken loop of bloom that requires nothing from you at all. Pair Rozanne with Sedum Autumn Joy as the upright centerpiece, and Heuchera Caramel as a mid-level foliage element, and you have a 3-layer combination that provides color and interest from April through November without asking you to do much of anything. 9 plants, all perennials, all suited by nature for exactly the conditions a container provides. Echinacea that asks for neglect. Agastache that blooms for months and thrives in a pot. Lavender that deters pests with its own chemistry. Hosta Patriot that brightens the darkest corner for decades. Sedum that gives you something worth looking at in February. Heuchera that earns its color from foliage that never stops working. Salvia Caradonna that stands tall through wind and heat and needs one haircut a season. Stella d'Oro that simply refuses to stop blooming. And Rozanne that cascades in violet blue waves from spring until frost without you ever once deadheading a flower. Drop your state or your zone in the comments right now. Subscribe if you have not already. Next week I am covering container combinations that use these exact plants together, and if you are not subscribed, there is a real chance it simply does not show up in your feed. Until then, fill some pots with the right plants, step back, and trust them to do what they were designed to do. Happy gardening.